Have you ever heard a story so incredible? It sounds like a myth, a tale where a simple act of kindness, a humble gesture, uncovers a treasure beyond imagination. Today, we're diving into one such legend, a story that blurs the line between history and fable, involving a god in disguise and a discovery that would change the course of a kingdom. Our story begins in the ancient land of India, under the rule of the Hoysala Empire, a dynasty renowned for its patronage of art, architecture, and religion. For nearly 3 centuries, from the 10th to the 14th century, the Hoysalas reigned over the Deccan Plateau, leaving behind a legacy carved in stone temples so intricate, so breathtakingly beautiful, they are considered masterpieces of human creativity. But one of their most celebrated temples, the Chanakashava Temple at Belur, has a foundation story that is as mesmerizing as its sculptures. The legend centers around the great Hoysala king, Vishnu. Before he became the powerful monarch we know from history, he was a prince, and like many heroes in our tales, he was facing a period of great trial. Some say he was afflicted with a severe illness that no royal physician could cure. Others believe he was grappling with a deep spiritual crisis, searching for a truth that eluded him. In his quest for healing, or perhaps enlightenment, he traveled across his future kingdom. One day, weary from his journey, he arrived at a small, unassuming village on the banks of the Yagachi River. This was Belur, then known as Villapuri. It wasn't a grand city, just a quiet settlement. It was here that fate, or perhaps something more divine, intervened. Seeking refuge, the prince approached a humble hut. Inside lived a simple, elderly man. Unaware of the royal status of his visitor, the old man welcomed him with open arms. He offered the weary traveler water to quench his thirst, a humble meal to satisfy his hunger, and a place to rest his tired body. This wasn't an act performed for reward or recognition. It was a gesture of pure, unadulterated hospitality, a core tenet of ancient Indian culture. Achichi Devil Bhava, meaning, the guest is God. The old man saw not a prince, but a person in need, and he gave what little he had, freely and with a generous heart. The prince was deeply moved. In his life surrounded by courtly etiquette and calculated favors, this simple, selfless act of kindness was a revelation. He spent the night, and as the story goes, his ailments began to fade. His spirit, once troubled, found a profound sense of peace. The next morning, as the prince prepared to leave, he revealed his true identity to his host. The old man was stunned, but the prince wasn't finished. He wanted to know what had prompted such genuine kindness. It was then that the old man revealed his own secret. He was not just a simple villager. He was, in fact, a disguised form of the god Keshava, another name for Vishnu, the preserver of the universe. He had come to this village to test the hearts of its people, to see if true dharma, true righteousness, still existed in the world. In the prince's humble acceptance of his hospitality and in his own selfless giving, divinity had met humanity. The divine being, Keshava, then gave the prince a blessing and a mission. He instructed him to build a temple at that very spot, a temple that would stand as an eternal testament to faith, humility, and the divine beauty that can be found in simple acts of kindness. And he made a promise. For this one great act, he would grant the king a resource that seemed infinite. 100 billion ancient stones, enough to build not just a temple, but a legacy that would last for millennia. This is where the legend explodes into a mind-boggling scale. 100 billion stones. Let's try to wrap our heads around that number. If you were to count one stone every second, it would take you over 3,000 years to count to 1 billion. To count to 100 billion, that would take over 3,170 years. The sheer scale is almost incomprehensible. It's a number that belongs to the realm of gods, not mortals. This divine boon wasn't just a pile of rocks. It was a symbol of endless potential. A divine treasury opened for a mortal king who had proven his worth not through conquest, but through humility. Inspired and filled with a new purpose, Prince Vishnuvardhana, upon ascending the throne, fulfilled his promise. He commissioned the construction of the Chanakashava Temple, a name which means handsome Keshava. He didn't just want a building, he wanted a masterpiece. He gathered the most skilled artisans, sculptors, and architects from across his empire. The material they used was soapstone, a soft stone that is easy to carve when freshly quarried, but hardens over time when exposed to air. This unique quality allowed for an incredible level of detail, and the artists took full advantage of it. For 103 years, 3 generations of craftsmen toiled. The legend of the 100 billion stones fueled their work. They carved with a devotion that went beyond mere labor. They were shaping a divine promise. And what they created is nothing short of miraculous. The Chanakashava Temple is not just a structure, it's a universe in miniature. Every inch of its surface, from the base to the pinnacles, is covered in exquisite carvings. There are grand depictions of an elephant cavalry, symbolizing the military might of the Hoysala Empire, with each of the 650 elephants being unique in its expression and posture. There are intricate friezes showing scenes from the great Indian epics, the Ramayana and Mahabharata, telling stories of heroism, love, and sacrifice. The walls are adorned with figures of dancers, musicians, and celestial beings, captured in moments of dynamic movement, their stone bodies seeming to pulse with life. Perhaps the most famous are the Madonikas, the celestial damsels. There are 42 of them, each one a unique study of feminine grace and beauty. One wrings water from her long hair, and a single drop is carved to look as if it's falling, caught in time. Another looks into a mirror, applying her makeup. A third is shown with a parrot on her shoulder, a testament to the artist's ability to capture the delicate relationship between humans and nature. These aren't just decorations. They are expressions of a culture that celebrated life in all its forms. And at the heart of it all, in the sanctum sanctorum, stands the magnificent 6-foot-tall idol of Chennakeshava, the handsome Vishnu. It's said to be one of the most beautiful representations of the deity ever created. The temple itself is designed as a star-shaped platform, a signature of Hoysala architecture, which maximizes the surface area for these incredible carvings. It's as if the artisans were determined to use every single one of those legendary 100 billion stones. Now, of course, the historian in us must ask, did King Vishnuvardhana really receive 100 billion stones from a god? Probably not in the literal sense. But that's the beauty of legends. They aren't meant to be literal records. They are stories that convey a deeper truth. The number isn't about accounting, it's about the infinite. It represents the boundless creative energy, the limitless devotion, and the immense resources, both material and spiritual, that were poured into this project. The story of the god in disguise served as the spiritual fuel for this monumental undertaking. It transformed the act of building from a royal decree into a sacred duty. It inspired generations of artisans to push the boundaries of their craft, to create something that wasn't just for a king, but for a god. The legend gave meaning to the labor, turning each chisel strike into a prayer, each finished sculpture into an offering. This tale teaches us something profound. It suggests that great achievements are not born from ambition alone. They are born from humility, from acts of kindness, and from a connection to something greater than ourselves. King Vishnuvardhana's encounter wasn't about gaining a material treasure. It was about a spiritual transformation that unlocked his potential as a great patron and builder. The 100 billion stones were not a gift he was given, but a potential that was unlocked within his kingdom through this divine inspiration. Today, the Chennakeshava Temple at Belur stands as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, visited by hundreds of thousands of people every year. They come to marvel at its architectural genius and the impossible detail of its carvings. But when you walk through its halls, remember the story of its birth. Remember the disguised god, the humble king, and the simple act of kindness that started it all. Look at the intricate patterns, the lifelike sculptures, and imagine the devotion that carved them. You're not just looking at stone, you're looking at a legend brought to life. You're witnessing the legacy of 100 billion stones, a number that represents not a quantity, but the infinite power of faith and human creativity. The true treasure wasn't the stones themselves, but the inspiration that turned them into a timeless work of art. So, the next time you see an opportunity to perform a small, selfless act of kindness, remember this story. You never know who you might be helping. It could be a stranger, a neighbor, or maybe, just maybe, a god in disguise. And that simple act could be the key that unlocks a treasure beyond your wildest dreams. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey into myth and history. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales that uncover the wonders of our world. See you next time.